Alright, I've been messing around with these clocks for past few months now, and I've just now gotten to the point where I can fix them, and it's been a lot of researching and time into this. So I'd figure I'd just go ahead and record a video on what I've learned about these things and how to repair them, because they're actually extremely easy to repair. It's hard to get the information to know how to do it. And so yeah, as you see, this one's working fine. Take power off of it, shuts down, put power back, works great. It's been keeping accurate time for over the course of the day, and I have two others that I've restored, so this one's working fine. I think I just lost power there. But in order to restore these things, so in order to take them apart first, I'll go ahead and explain that. First, you got to take this back plate off right here. That can be done through two little bolts that go here, 3/8, I believe. Or yeah, sorry, nuts that go right there onto the back plate, and then a press-on fitting, or like a press-on little clamp that goes on this little notch, and that can just be taken off with a screwdriver. Pull those off. Try not to lose any pieces because they are pretty small. And then you got to take off this black cover, which can be done through this little pin. A few of these, not pins, but washer type clamps, which hook to these little extrusions on the back of the motherboard here. You can just pop them off with a screwdriver or a pair of pliers. And then you'll get to this, the main body of it. Oh yeah, to take the front plate off, which you have to deal with this, which is the adjustment piece. In order to take the front plate off, you have to take the cap off of these. There's a cap that sits on here, which is what you use to adjust it. And those simply unscrew from the rest of the rod. Some can be a pain, like this one, as you see the marks of it. I had to use a pair of pliers to pull it apart. I've messed with 4 of these. 3 of them weren't too bad. 3 of them I could get done easily, but this one was pretty on there, so you might have to use a pair of pliers to fix it. But yeah, when you get into it, the main problem with all of the ones I've dealt with is this piece right here, more specifically that gear, that gray gear that sits on top of the flywheel. That flywheel is controlled by this electromagnet, and that's what makes it spin. It's a very, very weak electromagnet, but when it makes it spin, and that small gear is what spins the rest of the system. That's the main drive gear. And for some reason, the plastic Cadillac made, or AC Delco made for that gear, or whoever they outsourced it to, the plastic deteriorates. On 3 of the 4 clocks I've had, that gear has been missing. It's disintegrated or whatever, and clocks have never been opened before, but that gear was just gone. On one of the clocks I found, the gear was still intact, but I mean, it crumbled when I touched it. It crumbled into 2 pieces, but I was able to take measurements of it before I ended up losing it. And with those measurements, I was able to make a model of that, a replacement gear. In order to print it, I had to use a resin printer. It's the only thing precise enough because of how small the gear is. Wherever I post this, YouTube or some forum, I'll probably put in the description or on the post of a link to that model, because that model was hard to get to, or hard to get the measurements for. Like I said, it took 4 clocks to get to it. But with that, the clock now works. It works fine. Yeah, and that's the problem with almost all of these. The rest of the electronics are pretty sturdy because it's a sealed container. Almost none of them are bad. There is a chance to where this may be too weak to run it. I haven't ran across that, but I can see that being a possibility. If so, I don't know if these things are able to be rebuilt or swapped out, because all it is a coil. But yeah, the only gear I've ever found in these things to be broken or damaged is the brown gear that goes right on there. And so that's a printed replacement. In order to take that flywheel out, you got to undo these little bolts that hold it in. Those are if I can focus here, It's a 2.8 millimeter socket, or whatever the equivalent to that is in standard, and that's how you can undo those. And then you pull that out with a pair of pliers. Should look similar to this one, and then you can put the gear onto it and put the gear on the longer side. And yeah, almost all of these that I put together, they work fine afterwards. Yes, that's the only issue with these things. These things are, like I said, I really like the design of these clocks. They're a rotary clock. They're cool, but because there's such a limited run year, there's not too much aftermarket support for it. And getting one of these things rebuilt by a professional company or whatever can cost $400. I think mine I got priced at $400 to $600, which for a clock is a little ridiculous. So yeah, having a replacement that can cost 3 cents worth of plastic, if that, it's a good decision. If you have one of these that doesn't work, I'd highly consider pulling it apart and check if it has that gear. If it has that gear, most likely you can replace it with a 3-cent part. So yeah, just find some way to get a resin printer or access to a resin printer. Print a set of 4 or 5 of them just in case, and put a bit of silicone, because otherwise they'll slip on the I guess axle on the rod. It'll slip. So I put a few drops of silicone on there, put the gear on, let it dry up, and then run it, and it seems to be working out pretty good. So yeah, that's all I want to say. It's a simple fix for these clocks. Oh yeah, and put the clock oil on it. This is an oil lubricant made for clocks, the precision needle on it. Get one of those, because if you don't lube up the system, even if you do got the gear adjusted right, high chance that it'll still get stuck, because these things have to be adjusted really, really specifically. Even a quarter of a turn of one of these bolts can mess up the whole thing. So you got to sit there and play with it for a while until you get adjusted just right to where it'll turn on all the time. But once you got that, lube everything, or make sure to lube everything up, and then put it back together. Like I said, simple fix, and that's about all I want to say. That was a fix that took me way too long to understand how to do it, and I'd hate to see someone have to rediscover something. So yeah, that's how to fix a 74 and 78 Cadillac clock.